You know that moment where you have to let go of an old version of yourself to meet the new version of yourself, but you're standing like in between the two and you're like looking back and you're like, oh, you've done so much for me. Like you've got me here. But also I'm not really happy and this isn't really fitting me anymore. My name is Dee. I am originally from Kenya and now I live in California. I started off obviously in Kenya and then I grew up mostly of my childhood in Canada. And then the end of my teens, I came to the States. I think the first thing that came to mind would be like reading books with my mom at night. Like we would just read books like every night. I think as kids, sometimes it's very rarely you meet someone and you engage at their level. So an adult meets a kid and you're at their level. You're talking to them about things that like they can fully understand, they can fully grasp. And it's like this imagination in this story that like you're both kind of participating in this little world together. And it's at the level where the kid can like be an expert in, you know what I mean? Because a lot of times in childhood, you're learning, like you don't know everything and the adults know everything, right? So they're like on this level of like all this knowledge, right? And then you're just here. But when you're reading this book, it's like a time to bond together at the same level. I just remember laying there beside my mom in bed, snuggling up to my mom and having her like, you know, hold me and read this story to me. And then my dad and I would always go for drives. And turns out I found out later on in life that I used to not be able to go to sleep when I was a baby. Sometimes when I couldn't go to sleep, so my dad would drive me around to put me to sleep. And there's something about like my dad's voice that would always put me to sleep and the motion of driving. And so now like whenever I'm a passenger seat, I'm like, I'm done. And I think it was like a feeling of safety, a feeling of comfort, a feeling of love. And it's that quality time with your kids. It's just like, it was very intentional one-on-one time with each other. I think obviously no relationship is perfect and no like childhood is perfect, but there were some things that they really did right. And loving me was like one of those things. So when I decided to move from Canada to America, it was my choice. It wasn't my parents' choice. They had already moved here. They had settled down. I could have finished my high school there. But I was thinking about what was going to be best for my future. I was just thinking about like what I wanted to do with my life. And I knew that like moving probably would be a good idea. Anyways, so I went to go get my nails done. And this nail tech, right, was there. And she did my nails. And she was asking me like, what's on your mind? You know, because you can obviously see that I was sitting there thinking, right? And she was like, listen to your heart, listen to what you know. And it seems like you want a different life for yourself. So like, go find that wherever that is. And she was like, I'm going to do your nails for free today. And I just want you to remember like this could be the start of a new life. And it's really hard deciding you want to go somewhere new and start all over again. It's so easy to be comfortable. It's so easy to stay in your place. And I think even at a young age, just having that decision on my own to be able to decide if I wanted to leave or if I wanted to stay there, it was a big decision, you know? And like comfort could have won so easily. But this lady was like, no, like good things happen when you try something new. And she's like, I just want you to make sure you focus on school. She told me about her life story coming from, I forgot what country it was, but it was an Asian country. And she told me about how hard it was. And she told me about her education. And she told me about, you know, marriage and like a difficult relationship and how like she wished she had an education to fall back on so that she could support her family without being dependent on a secondary income. It was just such a powerful story for someone to open up that way to me and then give me the gift. So whenever I think about change, I just think of all the people along the way that you could meet that could change your world, right? There's that possibility right on the other side of comfort. Yesterday night. Yesterday night twice. Yeah, so I'm going on a retreat, on a spiritual retreat coming up soon. And also the end of the year. And the end of the year is always like a really introspective time for me. And I feel I'm in an interesting place where I've done a lot of self-development work over the last couple of years, but it's not translating into visible progression for the outside world, right? Like, so some people you see like, oh, they bought a house, oh, they got a promotion, oh, they got married or have kids. And then there's all of these visible milestones that are achievable, right? And I feel like over the last 3 or 4 years, I haven't had a lot of those visible milestones, right? And being like a type A, achieving, motivated person, it's difficult to evaluate my success this year or these last couple of years without that. So I've been thinking a lot about that, and also like knowing how retreats like the one I'm gonna go on have the possibility to change the trajectory of my life. You get that feeling like, you know, like, oh, change is coming, you feel it, like you get it, yeah. I'm taking off a significant amount of time from work, about a month to experience that and to really invest in myself. And when I was signing off of work yesterday, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm leaving in a week. I'm gonna be gone for a month. I'm a team of one at work. Like, I manage a department, but I'm also managing a department by myself. The thing was, I was worried because I care a lot about, I probably care too much, but I care a lot about what I manage and just the quality of everything that I put out. And so when I'm thinking about leaving, I'm like, oh my gosh, who's gonna take care of this stuff? Like, how is this gonna work? Anyways, so I got kind of scared, and it made me feel a little worried and anxious of like, what if I go and I learn something about myself that totally changes my trajectory, and then I come back and none of this matters? Like, this job doesn't matter, or this role doesn't matter, or the promotion I'm working for doesn't matter. Like, what if I come back and I'm like, I really don't need all of that. In fact, I'm like not happy and I want to make a change. And so I called a friend and I was like, you know that moment where you have to let go of an old version of yourself to meet the new version of yourself, but you're standing like in between the two and you're like looking back and you're like, oh, you've done so much for me. Like, you've got me here. But also, I'm not really happy, and this isn't really fitting me anymore. And there's bigger and there's more, and I have to believe there's more. And then you're looking at the future and it's like full of potential, but also scary because nothing is guaranteed. So that's where I was. And so I called a friend, and she ended up having just a similar conversation with someone the other day about like letting go of things. So in this conversation, we both just started like crying and, you know, talking about our past selves and like, you know, like what keeps us in the past when we know we're ready for the future? What keeps us holding on to these old versions of yourself? And then how many old versions of yourself are you holding on to, right? And it's hard to ask yourself those questions. How much baggage am I carrying? Why am I carrying that baggage? Do I need it? What in me needs that or is attached to that? How is that helping me now? And those are really hard questions. So I cried then. And then I was like, okay, let me do something relaxing. I ordered Uber Eats to like treat myself. And then I'm like, let me watch a movie. And I'm like, let me watch a Disney movie that's going to be like, you know, just like fun and not serious. Then I put on Encanto, which is all. And I was bawling. I was like, look at these women going through all these things. And they're trying, and you're gonna make me cry. And like, you know, they're trying to be their best selves, and one is like, oh my God, I'm like carrying too much, and I'm like, oh my God, that's how I feel at work. And the other one is like, everybody expects you to be perfect, and I'm like, oh my God, that's like, you know, how I feel. Like, you know, sometimes, you know, people expect you to always present like happy or have everything together, and then, you know, there's just like, you can see yourself in all of these characters. And the other one, like, what's my gift when you're in that moment of like, what am I supposed to be doing with my life? What's my talent? What's my passion? And you see all these people with like their directions and they know where they're going. And you're like, what about me? And so I was just bawling. So I think that's the importance of having these conversations. I think that's part of why I say yes to doing this. I think what we show on the gram or on TikTok are these perfectly curated versions of ourselves. And what happens is when we're looking for connection, when we're looking for love, when we're looking to feel seen or validated, it's really hard to be validated by a facade, by like something fake. I think there's two different types of pain or hurt, right? There is a new fresh wound, something that you've never experienced before. And then there are existing wounds that get picked at again or that get hurt again in the same position. And I think what I've learned from therapy is there is a lot of existing pain that we have that we haven't dealt with that kind of surfaces again and again and again. It's like, you know, same thing, different pile. I think we could be hurt all the time. I don't think that we do a good job of knowing when we're hurt. Like, we're so desensitized to that stuff. Like, so we could watch like a post about the women in Iran right now, and we could be like, oh, wow, that's really bad. And we almost feel something for it. But I think if we were a little more in tune, we'd probably know, like, it hurts us to see fellow females in that position, you know, losing their liberty, losing their freedom, their agency over their bodies. Even like Roe v. Wade, that was super painful for people, right? But we were asked to go to work and show up in all these spaces like everything was fine. Like, how many people are asking women, like, are you all right? This is this huge thing going on that affects like half of America's lives. Like, are we all right? Like, are we all right even having that conversation on that platform? And then also to hear about women being talked about like as, it almost removed an element of our humanity, you know? So I think we're hurt a lot in a lot of different ways all the time. I just don't think we're paying attention to it. One last thing on that is just, why are we so disconnected from that? Like, why don't people get how that affects women so much? Like, why is it such a foreign concept for men? And it's because we don't talk to them about it. We're not teaching them this in school. And it's not a topic that we can be talked about. Like, if men were more informed about these things, maybe they'd be making different laws. Maybe they'd be able to support their wives or partners or friends or, you know, when these things were going on. So I think the question is like, why aren't we talking about our pain more? And it's probably because everybody thinks it's a weakness. So it's really hard to like answer that question with one thing, because I think they're little tiny things that hurt us every day. I think I'd be upset at corporate America. I just think we're just commoditizing our time, our efforts. I think we have a lot of potential to take care of each other better. And I just think we're losing that just for the dollar. And while I understand the dollar is important, but I also think the dollar wouldn't be so important if we just took care of each other a little bit better. And I just don't see how that is going to take us to a joyous future. Mm-hmm. Like, what is the point if you're working 80 hours a week if you're not going to be happy? And then are we even able to bring that creative spirit? Or we're working in environments that aren't safe or don't allow us to innovate. And so I think what's happening is like the pressure of just maintaining and staying alive is kind of stamping out a lot of the creativity. I mean, how hard is it to be an artist right now? How hard is it to be a poet? How hard is it to be a writer or a creator? Like, all of these super intensive creative fields are also really, really difficult to be financially stable in. Like, even like when we're looking at the things that are making the world better, even like environmental initiatives make the world better, but we're opting not to do them for the dollar. And that, I think, so I'm a little bit upset at what we're sacrificing. That's a really good question. I have an interesting relationship with forgiveness. I think forgiveness isn't something that is influenced by the other person or other party. So I guess I need to ask myself if I'm ready to let that go. And I think part of the retreat, part of why I want to go on the retreat is because I need a little bit of distance. Because when you're there in the day-to-day, you get so wrapped up into it and you kind of forget who you are and what you're about. Like, you are not your job. Yeah. That is not who you are. That's something you do, but we get so wrapped up into it. And I think I understand why, because society's like, if you meet a new person, right? One of the first few questions you're going to ask is like, oh, and what do you do? Okay, and then where you live. So much about how we describe ourselves or validate ourselves or introduce ourselves to other people is by all these external things. And so I guess when I'm thinking about forgiving, it's one, me taking a step back to realize like, it's not to me personally. It's not intentional. It's not on purpose. And then just being willing to let go. And I think if I do, I'll probably be a lot more present in the moment. And I think that's where I need to go, which is ironic that I'm talking about this right now, because I thought I was going to be having this revelation on my retreat, but I guess I'm having it now. Okay, this is going to be real. I want to hear from myself that I'm worthy. Like, you know, when you talk to yourself and you believe it, like without a doubt, and you know it, like you're like, I am worthy. Like, that's what I want to hear from myself. My internal dialogue to be like, I'm worthy and I love you and you're doing a great job and you're doing the best you can. So much of this world tells you that you're not, so that you could take actions, right? Like marketing. Whole premise of marketing is to tell you, you're not this without this makeup. You're not this if you're not wearing this. If it's like outside, you're telling me I need it, or inside, I'm saying I need it, you know? And so I understand why it's so hard for people to say or to feel like they're not worthy, and why I understand, like, I'm giving myself grace to understand that, like, that's probably why. And you hear it in so many different ways. So many, like, even, you know, like, so for instance, growing up, like you being Asian, you know, and me being African, how many magazines did we see with people like us growing up? When you're looking for these signals and signs, how do you know that you're valued and you're appreciated? And sometimes a lot of this comes from your environment. And so, you know, little girls who never have a doll that look like them, they're like, well, why? And like, I'm not pretty, I'm not this, I'm not worthy, I'm not desirable, I'm not wanted, I'm not appreciated. Or in the boardroom or in the meetings, right? When you're talking and a man cuts you off and you're like, I was talking, or your idea gets stolen, or like a woman says ABC, a man says ABC, and all of a sudden the man gets all the accolades for it. What do each of those interactions make you feel? There are times where I'll be like, yes, fuck yeah, I'm worthy, you know? And then other times I'm like, oh my God, am I good enough for this? Yeah, and so it's an internal struggle. So that's what I want to hear. When I was talking about, like, it doesn't seem like I've done a lot of work externally, but I've spent so much time over the last years, like, working through these things that no one knows exist. You don't get a post on LinkedIn that everybody congratulates you for, you know? And so I think the thing is, when I'm looking at myself at the end of this year, and when I'm just looking at the past in my life, and I'm like, how am I doing? You know, what am I measuring myself on? And I think I had to learn that I think the things that, like, society tells us to measure ourselves on, like the perfect house, the perfect husband, the perfect this, all of that. And I don't think that's what I want to measure my success by anymore, because then I can start to ask myself, what have I done that's been valuable for my spirit? What have I done that's been valuable for my soul? And ask myself at the end of the year, like, did I love myself well? Did I treat myself well? And it's hard to measure yourself on those standards when a lot of other people are measuring you by other things, or when society measures you by different things. So it's hard to feel complete and to feel accomplished sometimes. The perfect day is the day that, like, what is meant to happen happens. And I am able to meet the day with where it's at. And so, like, if it's going to be a rainy day, allow me to meet that rainy day with joy and understanding that, like, the rainy day has its purpose. And it's okay. And this is my present moment. And the present moment is great. It's a gift. And if it's a sunny day, if it's a day that I get to relax, if it's a day that I get to eat my favorite food, then may I also accept that with grace and joy. And so my perfect day is really the day that I show up with an open heart and an open mind.